This Unc-slop style of entertainment creation could possibly be going extinct.
It's not expected that you would do anything at 100% anymore. Being forced into paying attention, for the most part, is a really novel thing.
There's a reason why literal film students don't want to watch movies. They find them boring. They're not as interesting as what's happening on their phone.
And if you're the consumer side of it, how do you go about consuming the media so that you're really being useful to yourself?
Hey, welcome to the Create Unknown, the home of Make Something Mean Something. I am Kevin Lieber, your Unc-slop Sherpa, and with me, as always, is Matthew Tabor.
Have you been making more Unc-slop in the last week or so, or have you been consuming Unc-slop?
No.
What has your slop journey been?
Yeah, let me think of what I've been consuming that could be considered Unc-slop. I have been consuming, yes, absolutely. I started watching The Mayor of Kingstown on Paramount Plus.
Oh, yeah. I've seen it all.
That's not Unc-slop in terms of its age. You know, it's not a show from the mid to late 90s or early 2000s. It's current. But as far as a current show, I think that is 100% Unc-slop.
I think it's awesome. I think it's excellent. I'm massively biased toward the Taylor Sheridan shows. I like what he does and how he does it. So a show like that was kind of made for me. But I actually watched it all fairly recently, like a month or two ago, because I started to watch it when it came out. I like Jeremy Renner, who, I don't want to make you feel awkward or like you've never had really important moments in your life, Kevin, but I'll tell you that I was outside of a Starbucks in Los Angeles maybe 15 years ago, and Jeremy Renner was smoking a cigarette next to me on the sidewalk. It was right after he'd released Neo Ned, so pretty far back in the Renner journey. But anyway, my point is how important that moment has been to my life. How important it simply made me as a person. And really, how you and I are just not on a level playing field when we talk about media and entertainment, because you just haven't had an experience like that. I like him a lot, but I started to watch the show when it came out, and I watched it at night, like right before I was going to bed. And that is not a watch it as you fall asleep show. It's just a terrible, terrible show to watch when you're like, extremely tired and, going to fall asleep halfway through. So I abandoned it and kind of never went back to it because I was only watching TV in those like last hours of my being. I thought a couple months ago, like, hey, I should watch that. And I kind of binged the entire thing.
All right. I have a few things here. First of all, are you such a big fan of Jeremy Renner that you had his app?
His app? Oh my God. Yeah, I thought of that. I was probably in like season 2 of watching the show, and I couldn't remember two things. And one was exactly what his accident was. He had that horrible, life-threatening, like snowplow accident or something. And the other was precisely what the issue was with the app, aside from it seeming like a strange vanity play. So I did look that up, and I guess it was almost like AI-ish communicating with its users as if they were talking directly to Jeremy Renner. And Everybody kind of got uncomfortable with that, including him.
I didn't even know. I thought it was just like pictures of him. I guess there were contests involved. I don't know. The whole thing seemed really strange and very, very funny. And I'm a little bit sad that it's being forgotten, because that seems like something we should keep, sort of at the top of the cultural zeitgeist is the Jeremy Renner app.
But you know how close we are to having exactly that come back, where it'll be so easy to have
everyone will have an app. There'll be a Matthew Tabor app, and you could just talk to you.
Anybody famous. It's like, oh, my best friend from YouTube, Kevin Lieber of Vsauce 2, is in my pocket and wants to talk to me every day as I get ready for school and work. And the little AI Kevin will be checking in on his new best friend. And, you'll get your 99 cents a month. That's totally possible now. And so it is kind of funny that this thing that was derided as being an uncomfortable horror at the time is almost certainly going to be everywhere by the end of this calendar year.
It's the most prescient thing that was ever invented, and so far ahead of its time, it was a joke, but it's like the umbrella. Wasn't the umbrella made fun of when it was first? I might be making this up. This might be a Kevin fact that he dreamed and it isn't real. But for some reason, I thought I had read once that, like the umbrella was laughed at when it was first invented. And then, of course,
why would somebody laugh at it?
I don't know.
It's like one of the most sensible inventions.
It is, isn't it? Yeah, I don't know. So let's get back to
I believe it,
Taylor Sheridan. I don't understand. This really isn't a question. I suppose it's just a remark. I don't understand how he writes all these shows, because it's not like he. What is it called? Kingstown, Mayor of Kingstown. It's co-created with this other guy, Hugo something. And as I understand it, the other guy sort of grew up in someplace in Canada where it's based upon, where there are a whole bunch of prisons.
Okay.
But Taylor Sheridan, I'm watching these episodes, and every freaking one at the end of the credits, of the opening credits, is like written by Taylor Sheridan. I'm like, he's literally writing every single. Yeah, and meanwhile, he has like 12 other shows. I'm like, I don't understand this man. Right. I don't get it. How does he do this?
He's a crazy workhorse with creating and cultivating the ideas, and then actually slamming them down into a real filmable project. It's sort of like Dick Wolf with the Law and Order stuff, like creating that level, that style of a thing, and then a dozen shows bloom under it. Well, he's done that with I don't know what you'd call his style, but it's a distinct style that flowed from even his involvement in Sons of Anarchy through to Yellowstone and the rest. But he appears to be like doing the grinding on each of these. I don't know how long that lasts. Like it's a crazy workload. But if he obviously must enjoy it, to have made the shift from, like in Sons of Anarchy, he was an actor. He was a policeman in that show. He was a cop. He started in that capacity. Well, 8, 9, 10 years later, however long it was, he just, created the blow by blow of the Yellowstone universe. And that was very, very good for, 98% of it. But he seems to have done it with Kingstown. Does he do Tulsa King as well?
I'm not sure if he does Tulsa King, but he did all those spin-offs of Yellowstone, like 1898 or
isn't it?
Yeah, Marshall's is another spin-off. Then there's 1928 or something. It's like, dude.
Oh yeah, the year-based ones. That was a really fascinating concept. But they were at least like self-contained into this generation's story at each juncture. Whereas Mayor of Kingstown, I don't know how long it lasts. I mean, as long as they can somehow make it believable that Jeremy Renner's character defies getting shot in the head. Having done that for like 4 seasons is miraculous enough. I'm sure it'll go a while. But yeah, he's got the capacity to pump out decent stuff. It's shocking.
So I looked it up. It's Tulsa King and Landman. So like all of the major Landman, Paramount Plus shows he does. It's crazy.
Yeah.
The other thing is that you mentioned that you couldn't watch that show. You couldn't watch Mayor of Kingstown while you were falling asleep. And my question is why? Because I think the answer directly transitions into sort of the topic of the day. Is the answer because you have to pay attention to it or else, you're lost?
Yeah, that was definitely part of it. It's also highly visual. Just because like any show that has a lot of tension and violence, you really have to watch. You can't half watch and really get it. Kingstown, to me, is not a good show to be on your phone as you're watching. Neither was Yellowstone. Landman is a bit lighter. It's not like constant violence and stuff the way Kingstown is. But having to give that much to viewing the show made it a strain at a time when I'm winding down and like by the minute losing my capacity to give that energy. So I fell asleep too many times. I checked out. I missed things, and it's just a terrible show to have to go back, find your place, and like pick up on the tension again. And it just didn't work for that. And I'm like, I'll get to it when I don't have to do it this way. And then I kind of, forgot about it for a couple of years.
Well, that was the answer I was hoping for, because it brings us to the discussion of today. So last week, we were talking about Unc-slop. I proposed my thesis that people need Unc-slop Sherpas. I'm happy to be one of them.
Yes.
So I did a little bit of it in the last week with someone on Discord, in our TCU Discord.
Really?
Yes. So a couple of like incredible things happened, after that.
Almost certainly a minor. So you Unc-slop groomed a minor on Discord. No. Is that what you're saying?
No. unless he's Doogie Howser, he's in college and definitely not a minor. So in our Discord,
I swear, officer, she was born on a leap year.
Longtime listener and Discord contributor Weezer Good is actually in college for film.
Yes,
changed the major to film, I think, somewhat recently. And, we had mentioned last week that, I don't know, I had read and then you had heard secondhand, sort of this vague notion that film students, well, you were talking about screenplay and writing students. And I think I was talking about film students I had read are just not interested in movies. Like people who are going to school, going to college to get an advanced degree in the specialization of film do not like movies. Well, lo and behold, we now have a firsthand account within our own community of this exact thing occurring, as Weezer Good popped into the Discord and was like, raised his hand and was like, hi, I'm a film student right now, and basically nobody in my class watches movies or wants to.
Wow.
And
wow. So we got the cease and desist in the mail that's like from this one class saying, please stop talking about us on your show.
Yeah. It's a funny thing because, sometimes I do feel like a lot of the topics that we discuss, we're theorizing on. This was an instance in which like it all came home to roost immediately and, received full validation of the theory that this was happening. It's 100% true.
Can you give the details of this? So what did Weezer Good say about the people in their class? Like, what is the prevailing attitude toward the films?
Yeah. So, I mean, first of all, it just scrambles my brain as someone who actually did go to film school. And, I won't go through it again, but I mentioned last week that when I was in school, I took every film class that there was, watched every single movie I could get my hands on. My roommate worked at Blockbuster and brought home like 3 movies every single shift. Like we were inundated with movies. We watched everything you could possibly imagine and really enjoyed that, which to me seemed like the default behavior of a film student. That was, the lens through which I was looking at this. topic with. So I flabbergasted asking him immediately, like, well, why are they film students? That's like the obvious and immediate question that comes to mind. Why are you going to school for a thing that you're not interested in? And the answer was that they all want to make Marvel and Star Wars movies. That's it.
Really?
Yep, that's it. That's what their interest is. That's the beginning, middle, and end of their interest in movies, is to make Marvel and Star Wars movies. That's it.
Okay.
Okay.
I mean, that's a, okay. That's, I had sympathy. So I was, as you were describing this, I was thinking about how as I was on a plane days ago, and I was thinking about the Unc-slop conversation that we had. And I thought, I have a lot of sympathy for the people in this position compared to us. Because it was very easy for us to decide what to watch. Because, you just said this. You had a pipeline to film through a roommate. And then you had a pipeline to film as a kid because your dad had a shop, didn't he?
Yeah, my father was co-owner of a video rental store. So we had so many VHS tapes growing up to watch.
You had more of a pipeline than like any kid could, aside from like somebody famous enough to be sent screeners constantly in the mail. you had it as good as anybody could in terms of that pipeline. But you get somebody who comes through and says, each day with a handful of VHS tapes, well, okay, you've got a movie or two or three to watch. Do you want to watch them? It's a yes or a no. That's it. That's a totally different scenario than what do I want to watch on a platform like Netflix? I don't even know how many movies are on Netflix, so I can't even throw out a stupid number. But let's call it thousands. I don't know what it is now. Amazon Prime, Hulu. Okay, there are 8,000, 10, 12, 15,000 possible choices at any given time. What do you do? That is really difficult to navigate. Where do you begin? And it's super easy to say, I'm going to go with the thing that I know is going to be really entertaining. I'm going to watch the Minecraft movie. I'm not going to sift through this to find the 12 Angry Men masterpiece and hope for the best. I'm going to watch what's thrown in front of me that is definitely going to entertain me for 90 minutes. It's completely sensible to me that it happens this way and would happen over and over and over that way. That wasn't something that we had to deal with. We did not have to put in any work at all to watch really anything, because it was on TV or it wasn't. You had the VHS or DVD or you didn't. And you were going off of a little blurb in the TV guide or a recommendation from somebody. And it was that simple. Do you want to watch this or do you not? Easy choice. It wasn't, what of the 20,000 things in front of you right now do you want to put 2 hours into? It's a brutal position to be in. So I spent days now, like 5 days, building up all of this sympathy for the people who need Unc-slop Sherpas. And all of it just went out the window, completely went out the window the moment you said, these kids want to make Marvel movies. I'm like, okay, you know what? This isn't a cussing podcast, really, but I just want to blow it out. I want to say something so awful that when Spencer edits this, it's just like a 45-second long beep.
Yeah. That was the answer. So that I was like, oh, okay. That's certainly a choice, I guess.
Did Weezergood tell you why he went into film?
No, that's a great question. And okay. I need to talk to him more about that because, what ended up happening was that the conversation then turned into me being Unc-slop Sherpa. Like instantly I engaged in Unc-slop Sherpa mode and started poking and prodding and asking him, what have you seen? What directors have you watched? Have you which of their films have you seen? Blah 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 blah. Have you seen this? What Coen brothers have you watched? What Kubrick have you watched? All of these things, and so then the conversation turned into that. But the more things came, so that was fun, and I really enjoyed that. So I'll throw this out again to our listeners, whether it's on in the YouTube comments or on our Discord. I will reply to you if you want to talk about movies. So, the offer stands. It's an open offer.
And you're not a minor.
Yeah. The offer stands to be your Unc-slop Sherpa when it comes mostly to movies. Anime, I have like a decent grasp of. I don't claim to be otaku or anything like that, but I have a decent collection of Unc-slop anime experience as well.
What was your first suggestion? What did you say first?
For Weezer Good?
Yeah.
I don't remember what we started with, but I think that I asked him right away if he had seen any Coen brothers, and he had not seen a single Coen brothers movie. And I love the Coen brothers. I don't love all of their movies. They've made a lot, and some of them I'm not in love with, but they have made so many that I'm absolutely in love with. And I also think that their movies strike a blend of being approachable and not being too like artistic or pretentious or anything like that. They're not like artsy fartsy, but at the same time, insanely well crafted, insanely well written, shot, edited, all of the stuff that goes into the craft of filmmaking. I love the way that they do it. So when I said like, as part of my Unc-slop Sherpa role, is like I wouldn't recommend things that are black and white. I wouldn't even recommend things as old as like the 70s, 80s, or even maybe the 90s. I think I would really start with most people in the 2000s, because that's 20 plus
a while.
It's 25, 26 years at this point. It's old.
Yeah.
So
it really was. Yeah, and if you think about that for us, if I don't know, let's say in 1997, somebody was throwing out movies that were old, early 70s, like that still would have been pretty distant to 1997. It would have been definitely an old thing like disco music. Like you would have thought, okay, this is a distant era. I think that, yeah, on paper, it might feel funny to say, oh, 2004 is a classic. Well, look, that's the way the calendar has flipped. It's time to recognize that some of those things that seem very recent are, in fact, they're old and worthy of unkness.
Yeah. So right away, we got into Coen brothers. I recommended things like, obviously, No Country for Old Men, Fargo, Miller's Crossing, The Big Lebowski, so many of them I really love. Barton Fink. He watched No Country for Old Men like that night, and then the next day, now we have a discussion about No Country for Old Men. And then that was really fun for me. Like let's talk about the symbolism. Let's talk about the themes. Like, what did you think about this moment that, people complained about? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Oh, he loved it. I'm like, oh, good. Perfect. Yeah. I can work with this.
That's a really interesting one too, because you have somebody who, let's say 21. I don't know how old Weezer Good is specifically, but we're talking college age person. We'll call them 21. For simplicity's sake, a 21-year-old thinking about what aging is and what it means, like generally in the world, and then what it means to specific types of people, and seeing the interplay between those two things. That's a super interesting thing for somebody who is not very high in age to think about, and getting their reaction on that is fascinating. And so I liked catching up with that. That must have been Wednesday or so. Wednesday, Thursday. It was one of the days where I was in airports. And so I was kind of peeping on my phone on that and caught bits and pieces and didn't participate, but it was enjoyable to me to see a person of his age react to those themes. So that was really good. And it seemed like, I know you enjoyed it because it's talking deeply about something you absolutely love. But it seemed like he enjoyed it. And I thought, why wouldn't anybody want to do this? Why wouldn't anybody want to have conversations like this? It's enjoyable. They're missing out. All of the Marvel and Star Wars weenies in his class are missing out on something that's just plain fun to do.
Well, I mean, that was my sort of overall point last week when I was discussing, just the Unc-slop Sherpa movies that I would recommend. It's like, oh no, now I get to watch some of the greatest movies of all time, which often, not always, because I also love movies that you don't think about for 5 days afterwards, like Bloodsport or Commando or Predator, like those. Although Predator has some things that are actually more interesting than they seem to think about on the surface. But really things like No Country for Old Men that are saturated with meaning. And there are so many choices that the directors made to evoke and support the themes and the meaning of that movie. That's the best. That's the best to me, is to sit down then and think about it on my own, talk to somebody else. What did you think about this? That was how I felt with Banshees of Inisherin. I think you and I talked about that for like 3 days after we had both seen that movie, because that was an example of a movie that you sit down and if you're paying attention, if your eyes are open, your mind is open, and you're thinking about it in on more than a surface level, you get so much out of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I do. I have sad news to report. I have to report the exceptionally rare Vibecat W. We've had Vibecat in the Discord. We have the rare Vibecat W in the chat. And I have to acknowledge this. That Vibecat's point is that people find inspiration from all manners of stuff. And if that's Marvel movies, who are we to judge if it gets them creating? And, maybe it starts with Marvel movies and, crummy action movies, and then it goes somewhere more serious beyond that. I do want to acknowledge that as a real point. Kevin, the crossover that you and I have in stuff like movies is almost exclusively garbage. The stuff that we like together is universally just shit. It's terrible.
Our Venn diagram.
Yeah, our Venn diagram. Yeah, it intersects at like Bloodsport. We have a great time with those films. Well, we liked that stuff when we were younger, and I think just of all the artistic and creative people who I've known, almost all of them started on things that would be embarrassing down the line. That they started listening to music that was not anything exceptional. They watched movies that they just plain had fun with, like the Van Damme type stuff. And it evolved. They branched out to more serious themes and better characters and writing and dialogue and all of that stuff. And so that's the question. And Jen is 2 sentences ahead of me on this, saying that the problem comes when there's no interest or willingness to expand beyond that original interest. And that is the question. Is the curiosity totally stunted? Is that level of stuff to them the only thing, the pinnacle of achievement? Nothing else matters. That's an unhealthy thing. But the point that Vibecat made, that you can't you can't judge somebody harshly for where they begin on stuff. That is a strong one. Books for me, I didn't read serious books until I had to, and even after I did serious work, I kept reading books that were like young adult fiction, and I mean real young adult fiction, not the stuff that's like young adults dealing with like incredibly adult themes or difficult situations. If you're watching the Percy Jackson series on Disney right now, those are kids that I don't know how old Percy is meant to be in the second season, but let's say like 14ish. He and his friends are navigating seriously adult level responsibility and situations through everything. Yes, it's young adult as a theme, but like let's be real, it's kids dealing with adult stuff. The stuff that I liked, like the Warriors series about cats, if anybody's familiar with this, that's real young adult literature. There are 4 clans of cats in the woods, and they have their own internal struggles and wars between the clans and all sorts of stuff. But it's just cats. That stuff is not Lord of the Rings seriousness. But I didn't want to read high literature when I'd spent all day long reading about some math paradox or crunching crazy information for a Vsauce 2 video. Well, if I wanted to read at night, I dealt with stuff that was pretty goofy and childish. So I return to and even default to that level of seriousness. And I don't think that's a stain on who I am or what my career is. So it's completely fine. And I remember when MTV would interview musicians, there would be like always a question that's like, what's the guilty pleasure that you're listening to? And somebody would throw out some album that was like top 40 schlock. Something that was laughable and fun. As opposed to like, everything I'm listening to is actually honing my craft. Like, no, that's not true. So I guess I've gotten a little bit of sympathy back. You're toying with me at this point, Kevin. You're pulling me in to sympathy. You're pushing me out toward hatred. And then the more we talk, I just go back and forth. It's very difficult.
Well, there are a number of things that I think are a part of a larger discussion because, well, first of all, if all you grew up with watching was Marvel and Star Wars movies and the biggest things ever, and that, really ran the gamut of your formative years into heading into college and wanting to become a film student, then of course that's what you want to make. That is understandable. At the same time, I do find it odd to be adverse to looking into the craft beyond anything more than that. Yeah. It's odd. It's very strange to me, and I don't get it. But the more, I think, interesting discussion about movies in general is there are a few things that have come out in the last week. One thing that I read a long time ago had to do, I think, largely as a response to like declining theater attendance. And that was the other thing I wanted to say about these Marvel movies is they're all losing money, guys and girls. So I don't know. I have no idea what the future is of Star Wars and Marvel movies as a career path as of 2026, because it looks pretty grim as far as I could tell.
Did you see James Cameron said today that he couldn't make another Avatar unless it was done differently? That he couldn't afford to keep making Avatar movies the same way that he has been. And I didn't have the opportunity to read around that and see why he made that statement. But that's another example. It's like, this is something that, it made a lot of money. This latest Avatar has done quite well. The first one did exceptionally well. So if you take somebody like him with those films and say, boy, I can't pay the bills doing this, then the overall big wow feature stuff is pretty uncertain for the future.
Well, years ago, Martin Scorsese got in trouble for calling the Marvel movies like roller coasters, I think is what he likened them to. This was like a huge thing where people are like really upset about this, is that he essentially compared those types of what we're talking about, which is Avatar, Star Wars, Marvel movies, the new Jurassic Parks, I would throw into this mix, as not really Movies, in the traditional sense, as we've known them over the past 90 years, but more like roller coasters, like amusement rides.
Okay.
Right? Like you go there and you're on this roller coaster, it's amusing, and then you leave, but like nothing has changed in your life other than you had, something to entertain you while you ate popcorn for a couple of hours. It caused you to reflect on yourself or other people or the culture at large or some sort of hot button issue or a thing that you never thought about before when it comes to, interpersonal relationships on the small scale or large scale, whatever, like things that movies are capable of doing. It doesn't do any of that. These movies don't do any of that. It's really just shiny object for a little while, and then it falls out of your brain, which I think is the overall criticism of the Avatar movies in so far as they have made billions of dollars and have had no impact on anything culturally, aside from being kind of a meme over the fact that no one remembers anything about them or what the characters' names are or what the story's about or anything, but they've made billions of dollars. I think that is like a perfect example of what Scorsese was using as a criticism towards those types of movies.
I can understand that he's a nutrition guy and he's saying, here's a bunch of empty calories.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's like, putting them in that category makes sense to me. At the same time, not everything you eat has to be quinoa. It's cool to slam some Hot Pockets now and again.
No, but not everything should be Twinkies. And I think that's where we're at now. And that's what it seems like the film students are doing. They're going to the Twinkie factory. Like, let me get a degree in Twinkie craft. And that's strange to me.
Wow.
So there were the two things sort of interrelated that also popped that I wanted to throw at you. One is that something that we discussed, I think a long time ago, about how the writing in a lot of these streaming shows and movies is so poor. There was that article that came out that described this as new literalism, which is like I think it was like in the New Yorker. It's just like a fancy
new literalism.
Yeah, it's a fancy term for a thing that really means that the streaming shows and the movies, like, it's the opposite of show don't tell. It's like tell. They say the plot out loud. They say how they're feeling out loud. Like there was an example in the new literalism article of a Sex and the City movie on Netflix in which I think Carrie Bradshaw is like left at the altar and she like screams aloud like, I'm so embarrassed. And it's like,
like I'm humiliated or something.
Yeah. So we talked about this a while ago. This is something that has been like bubbling under the surface. And just a few days ago, Matt Damon was on Joe Rogan's podcast and was talking about, I think he said that the contracts, correct me if I'm wrong, that the contracts on Netflix stipulate that you have to like summarize the plot 3 to 4 times per episode or during the runtime of the movie or something like that. Like you literally need to say out loud what is happening and what the whole thing is about over and over again, 3 to 4 times. Because people aren't paying attention, because people are on their phones. It's a second screen viewing experience watching this stuff. And this is why it all goes back to Mayor of Kingstown, where you couldn't even watch that when you were half asleep because you actually needed to be paying attention. Well, now it seems like the majority of things are being crafted with people not paying attention in mind.
Yeah. I wonder if there are going to be more Taylor Sheridans because Paramount's done really well with that style of content that is not quite as literal as everything else. It works. There's still a place for it. I don't know if it's too hard to find the talent to pull it off. I don't know. I don't know what the problem is. But it will be interesting to see how many people commit to the new literalism or say, we actually don't need to do that. Here's the proof of a bunch of really good shows and movies that don't follow the Netflix contract rules. At the same time, you have to do, you got to do what the people paying you have you do. There's kind of no way around that. And if that's Netflix funding a thing, you have to do it their way. If it's a network that will only, greenlight and produce your show if you follow this formula, well, what are you going to do? Well, Paramount seems to have given Taylor Sheridan a great deal of latitude, which is easy to do once he's proven that it works. You can extend that courtesy. But will there be opportunities for really people to do it in a less literal way like we used to and still succeed? I don't know.
Well, okay, a couple things. One is that the Netflixes of the world are paying people to produce stuff their way, and their way is what the audience wants. Because why else would they do it any other way? All they want to do is keep people, continuing to watch Netflix, sort of watch in air quotes, play Netflix on
be in the same
screen.
Room with Netflix as it's playing.
Perhaps be in the same room or not. And I think the Paramount Plus, Unc-slop boomer audience is way older than the audience that Netflix has and wants. So I think that this Unc-slop style of entertainment creation could possibly be not only like waning in interest, but going extinct. So this brings me to like the next part of my the big topic, which is like are movies becoming a zombie art? This is a term that I had read a few months ago, and like a zombie art referred to things like opera or orchestras, classical music, ballet, things that had some kind of heyday and cultural relevance at one point, but now are really sort of trapped in like a social status corner of some part of like Manhattan and London, I guess, or something, where like people who own tuxedos specifically go to something like a ballet to give them a reason to wear their tuxedo, right? And if, the students grew up on these roller coaster ride movies, and that's what they like, and that's what they want to make, and that's what they want to watch, and you have a whole generation of people. Here's the last anecdote that I wanted to use to bolster this argument. There was a quote tweet to the Matt Damon podcast clip about him talking about Netflix requiring creators to reiterate the plot in the dialogue because people are not paying attention, in which this person was saying how his or her roommates had never seen Die Hard before. They really wanted their roommates to watch Die Hard.
Yeah.
But
it caught my eye because I told you in that episode, like I said explicitly that I hadn't seen Die Hard. So when that popped on my feed, I was like, oh, it just caught my eye, this little story.
Yeah. I know, it was calling to you because you hadn't seen Die Hard either. And anyway, the person says that the roommates spent the entire movie doing chores and just looking at their phones. And at the end of the movie said that they didn't like it.
Yeah.
And so then they quizzed the person who said they didn't like Die Hard on like a major plot point, asked him, why did the bad guys hold the building hostage? Which is like the crux of the whole movie.
That's the movie, isn't it?
That's the movie. It's like, hey, what happened in the movie is the question. And they had no idea. So they're not paying attention. And then at the end, they're like, that sucked. It's like, okay, well, I don't know what to do with this.
You can't do
this
anything.
Is an intractable situation. So what are we doing with movies? I don't know what the answer is to that.
Yeah, I think it hits. I think it hits in a lot of genres where it always bothered me. Kevin, were you a kid who listened to music as you did homework?
Yeah, I was.
How could you do that? How is this possible? How were you homeworking properly at the same time as you were listening to music properly?
It depended on the homework. Is that okay? If it depended on the homework? Because it did depend on the homework.
I'm willing to listen. I'm willing to listen.
If the homework required a lot of reading and thinking, then no, I didn't have. But there was a lot of homework that was like essentially brainless, rote, copying or filling out a sheet or something like that, doing math. Like I can listen to music while doing that, doing some math homework.
I was not one of these people where I couldn't split attention between those two things. It was really one or the other. Even when I if I listen to music as I'm doing something that's automatic, it's because I'm able to do the automatic thing. I'm 98% focused on the music. It's not 50-50. I'm not going back and forth between the two things. That I think this has been around a while. This issue of like, how much do you pay attention to the thing? That slider of 0% attention to 100% attention is really bouncing around now. And I think it's not expected that you would do anything at 100% anymore. And I think some of the seemingly archaic things that you pointed out, the ballet, the theater, the symphony, these are all things that you have no option but to be at 100%. Like you can't be on your phone. You can't talk to people. The best you can do is tune out of the performance and like daydream or think about something else. You can actively shut that down, but you can't do anything else to split the attention or to focus on anything. And I think that's being forced into paying attention for the most part is a really novel thing right now. Yeah. It's a major issue with having phones in classrooms. This is something that, the last couple of years, the debate has been renewed on it. It was a really big issue when kind of useful phones came out. I don't mean flip phones that you couldn't do much with, but like the earliest iPhones, when you could actually do cool stuff on a phone, then they became a real, potential distraction. But this is really the heart of the matter is that how do you approach things in terms of giving it your attention, or if you're a creator, how do you make something that makes that choice for the viewer? There are shows, and I haven't seen Die Hard, so I can't say whether it's one of them, but there are shows and there are movies that grab you so tightly that you really don't have a choice but to follow really closely. And there are books like this too, where your only way out of it is to close the book and leave. You can't do it halfway. You can't fade in and out of paying really close attention and then kind of not. Like, no, you're there. The novelty of Mr. Beast's videos when he really hit the scene and blew up, that his approach was like that, in that you just watch the thing, every second of it, because it was incredible, at the time. The stuff ebbs and flows. I don't know if his shows on Amazon have that same magnetism on the attention slider that his earlier YouTube stuff did. I think there are a few shows. I may have said Netflix. I'm at Amazon. There are a few shows. I know there's that like Smart versus Strong one. There's I don't know. It pops up on my feed. I don't watch them, so it hasn't magnetized me. But if I loaded them up, would I be so completely drawn into it? I don't think so. American Idol was like this in the earliest seasons. Survivor, which is now doing its 50th season, 50, was like this in the first couple seasons. You had to pay attention to it. It was fantastic. So you've got two sides of this. You have, how do you create in such a way as to make the attention decision automatic for the people viewing it? And if you're the consumer side of it, how do you go about consuming the media so that you're really being useful to yourself, where you're paying attention, or where you've got that slider in a place that makes it worth watching the thing? It's actually useful to you as a person.
I don't know. I mean, if you've never even just sat down and experienced what it's like to give your full attention to a movie that requires it, I don't even know how you develop that. It's actually really interesting at this point for me to talk to someone like Weezer Good. Like, if you're such a minority and an outlier in your own class that's dedicated to film, why are you like this? Like, what spurned your interest to actually go back and say, hey, I'm going to start watching Stanley Kubrick films? Like, how in the world did you get to that point where, you're watching 2001: A Space Odyssey, if that's considered at this point to be just completely dusty, archaic, and a boring way to spend your time? And if, like, this is the path that we're headed towards with the populace, like mass appeal overall, most people, then it does raise the question, or at least the thought in my mind is, if the idea, I mean, like, movies have only been around, 100 years, give or take. So it's not like the way that they are, for any reason, we should think of them as being relevant for another 100 years in the way that they were for the first. Does it, turn into a place where it's like a weird niche, kind of quirky, nerdy thing to actually be interested, not in watching obscure, like, indie film, or, oh, I can't wait for the next Todd Solondz film, or I don't know, whatever. Even Wes Anderson, who is like probably the most well-known, but still has that, like, very artsy kind of indie vibe to him. If like Steven Spielberg is then considered like a weird niche thing where it's like, yes, no, I'm really into film. Oh, really? What's the latest thing you've watched? Raiders of the Lost Ark. Like, do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, the most popular thing in America at one point. And that was actually part of the thing I thought was funny talking to Weezer Good about was, the movies that I was trying to recommend he watch. And I was explicit. I was like, these were the Marvel movies of their day. Like, please understand the context under which I am recommending something to you, like The Godfather or Rocky or Jaws. Like, these are not these weird hidden nerd films. This isn't like Fellini, okay? Like, this is was the most popular thing that existed at the time. It was like a revelation and like cultural mass hysteria around these things.
Yeah, and they stayed in the theaters for a year, solid.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, like, Jurassic Park was in theaters for like
for sure.
78 weeks.
Because they had the second theater runs. They had like the major release runs where it's like full ticket price. And then they got to the second theater or whatever, where it was half price or a quarter price or whatever was the difference for like another year or more. Like, people would go to see these things. But now, it's considered like, I don't know what it's considered. I'd love someone to tell me, what is it considered? A boring boomer way to spend your time? Boring boomer entertainment? I don't know.
This is really the foundation of the whole issue. And Jen just said something in the episode chat that speaks to this about so many, or rather so few people knowing how to not be stimulated, to exist when there isn't a crazy Marvel movie playing on the screen right in front of them. And those movies, it makes perfect sense why they would be a standard that would want to get people into film, because they do command your attention. Not the 19th time you watch it, but who is going to see, at their peak, who is going to a theater to see a Marvel movie and spending half the time looking at their phone? No one. No one, because those movies had them every single second until it was done. They're just constructed that way. It's constant stimulation. Those early Mr. Beast videos, constant intrigue and stimulation. American Idol, you didn't know, where you legitimately didn't know whether the next person who would audition was going to be absolutely incredible or absolutely disastrous. You had no idea. And so it was like the ultimate highs and lows of the talent show experience. And you didn't know what was coming. And then you appreciated it for what it was, awesome or awful, as it was happening. Total grabbing attention. It was total stimulation both ways. And I think that's the bar now, is that it's expected that something is going to be constant stimulation. And you move, when one thing is over, you move on to something else that will provide the stimulation. Well, if you're not sure, if you don't have one of those immediately, you go back to something that has already stimulated you and you watch it for the 17th time. You know, people talk about like their comfort shows and this and that. They're really going back to something that is guaranteed stimulation and resonance. They're just going with a safe choice on that. But that's really what it is. Nobody says, you know, my comfort show is, I don't know, I'm trying to choose. What's a weak show from the 80s? Something that was kind of good, but ultimately not really good. Would you say Knight Rider?
I was going to say Knight Rider. Oh, God. That's so bizarre. Yeah. Yes, I was going to say Knight Rider, and then you said Knight Rider. I thought you were going to give me a pause to answer, and then you just filled in the blank that I was already like writing N-I-G-H too. Or, okay. Wait, is Knight Rider with a K? I don't even remember. I didn't watch that show.
Yeah, it's with K. But yeah, so like that's not the worst show ever. It's not the best show ever. But nobody is like, you know, my comfort show is Knight Rider because it's so mid. Like, no. Their comfort stuff is going back to something that was really resonant or stimulating at the time. They don't get the same buzz when they watch it for the 80th time. I like and rewatch the Lord of the Rings movies a lot. I don't get the same enjoyment out of it now as I did when I first saw them, but I still really enjoy it. I'm going back to it because I like all of it so much. I'm not going back to something that is completely and totally mid from, you know, I'm not going back to watch Joanna Man. That's not a comfort movie.
I don't know if you can go back and watch that.
I actually seriously doubt it's available on any platform at all.
I agree. It's probably scrubbed. That movie's gone.
But don't you think, down the memory hole.
Going back to attention, though, don't you think part of the comfort show prevalence is because you don't have to pay attention to it? Because you know what happens.
Yeah.
You know the characters. It's all familiar. It can sort of be like a surrogate friend in the room while you do chores or look at your phone or work or do anything else. Isn't that part of the role of that?
It's like playing a game you've already beaten. You know, like there are no surprises left. You're good at it at that point. But you play it anyway. It's fun. Partly because it's less of a challenge. You know, that's a nice thing. But the second half of what Jen said is about valuing small details and paying attention, creating that stimulation for yourself, as opposed to having it thrown in your face the way a Marvel movie does. And that expectation that there are lots of times where the responsibility is on you to create the resonance, the enjoyment, the stimulation, that seems to be completely gone with far fewer people interested in it. They go for the easy way. And what happens, this is the big question on that is, what happens when nobody bothers to do any of these things? How does this change things culturally? We've seen this play out a lot on YouTube. Because in the earliest days, there really wasn't anything too crazy. There was comedy stuff that was really funny. Comedy is always a different category. But viewers really had to construct a lot of enjoyment and pay attention to small details and have a super active role in what they were watching. Well, over time, I don't want to keep beating the Mr. Beast pinata on this, but over time, a lot of content shifted to that. You don't have to do any work at all as a viewer. You just have to open your eyes and be amazed until the video is over. A lot of the science stuff went that route. It went from being stuff you really had to think a lot about to here's something that is either visually or conceptually super, super crazy, and all you as a viewer have to do is show up. The demands on the audience have decreased tremendously. So what we're talking about in movies, TV shows, it hit me straight away. One of the only shows that I really look forward to was the new season of The Pit. This is a hospital drama show that is very, very good on HBO Max. The new season opened a week ago, I think. That show, the structure of it is each episode is 1 hour of the day in a single ER shift. So episode 12 of the show is 12 hours into that one day. So the show opens with Dr. Robbie, who's the main character, coming into work that day. And I forget the details of the dialogue, but somebody's like, aren't you supposed to be on sabbatical in Cancun right now? To introduce that he's there on like his last day before he has this long trip away. But it was such an overstatement where the real way that plays out is somebody just being like, what are you doing here today? And then he's like, yeah, I don't leave till tomorrow. There's no detail in the real exchange. That's how, you and I would have that conversation. And you would write that in such a way where the response that the first person had to that would be like, at least Cancun is 95 right now. It's snowing here.
Well, and you would have some kind of scene that had no dialogue, that was just visual of him like getting his boarding pass on his phone. That's it, right?
Yeah.
You would have to have some kind of, right, some sort of show, don't tell. You show him doing
packing
something.
The bathing suit before he rushes off into work, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But instead it was that super on the nose conversation that no two real people would ever have to kick off the new season of the show. And I thought, this is so completely unnecessary, because you could have taken the same amount of time to do this in a way that real people actually behave. And it would have made the viewer an active viewer to put together, he's loading, that's a boarding pass. Like, this thing has a big QR code on his phone. It's like, and a seat number next to it. Like, then the viewer is doing a little bit of work, and they're involved in the process. This is very much like what you and I have always said about effective informational videos, that nobody wants to learn anything. Nobody wants to be taught something, but they absolutely want to think through a thing along with you. They want to go through exploring the topic at the same time as you are thinking about it with them on the screen. That's the difference there. And it turns the viewer into an active viewer. If you take that role away, who is left? A bunch of slugs, a bunch of losers just waiting for the next fix. I think that is massively damaging when it is at this point. I don't know, what's the media consuming population of the world? Like 6 billion? Would that be fair? I'm sure like 2 billion people in the world aren't like watching much. But 6 billion people who are being spoon-fed everything, as opposed to taking an active role in figuring out what's happening on screen, why that character is doing it that way, why they're not doing it a different way, why somebody is super afraid, where tension comes from in a romantic relationship. Like, take that away, and what is anybody even doing? Yeah, Kep says in the episode chat, like, that's me. This is, this is like the beginning of of the on the nose, that phenomenon of the record scratch where it's like, I bet you're wondering how I got here. That sort of thing.
That's the millennial Chungus dialogue that I absolutely loathe and is so annoying, that like Joss Whedon really started in the late 90s, but then got really popular with his early Marvel movies, where yes, the characters are just, they act unrealistically, and they're always like self-referential in a way where you're like, well, I can't believe, oh my God, I can shoot laser beams out of my hands. That's friggin' crazy. Whereas like a real person would be like probably crying, like, what is happening to my body? Like being like hilarious and quirky is not a natural response ever. No one is ever especially when something like fantastical or like shocking occurs. I could fly? Right. Oh my gosh, wow. I could freaking fly. No one.
Yeah, it's always that way. Terrifying for them, or confusing, or jarring in one way or another. That's real life. Even when something goes really well and it's such a surprise that it's awesome. That's much more real. How much do you think people in the past, and I mean people like you, very old people, elderly people like you, Kevin, how much did you learn about people and humanity by watching TV and movies? Because you have some perspective on it now. You've been an adult for 2 to 3 years now. Well,
it's funny that you say that, because, when I was thinking about this topic earlier, I really wanted to bring that up as some kind of benefit to the value of watching movies. And then there's like another like little demon in my brain that's like, yeah, but like so much of it is a lie and wrong, and propaganda or biased or misleading in often purposeful ways, that it's hard for me to make that argument. But that's the demon. I would say like the main portion of my brain that's ignoring the demon would say like, yes, like a tremendous amount of how I have grown up to think about different professions and different, ways people interact, and different eras, different like cultural struggles, and, whatever largely came from media that I consumed. Yeah. Like I don't honestly, I could not possibly deny that. There's no way.
I think so too. I think that it's really always been this way. This was the purpose of printing a lot of copies of the Bible, by the way, was that here's a book that will give lots of examples to people about how to go about their lives, and they will be influenced by this with some guidance. The priests and rabbis and all those people are Sherpas in their own way. So they're guiding people through using those texts as really the examples of how to do it. Well, then that turned into novels, then movies, and eventually music. Older music was not terribly serious. Some of the you don't look to a ton of lyrics from the 1800s. You don't look to old time songs and be like, oh, well, now I know how to live. I've listened to Jimmy Crack Corn, and now I can navigate my life. That's not happening.
No, but that was the revolution with music in the 60s, right? Because before then, even through the 50s, all the songs were like, hello, my baby, hello, my honey, hello, my ragtime gal.
You have some eras overlapping there. But no, like Elvis songs and all the stuff from Sun Records they weren't philosophical treatises.
I got a girl, she loves me. Yeah. And then in the 60s, they're like, maybe war is not a good idea. Like things got very serious and political.
There's a lot more serious material there, and Jen says in the chat that people do learn about behavior and relationships through the media they consume. That's absolutely true. And if they're not learning from it, which it's important to not set that expectation that you're going to listen to a song and like decide how to do a part of your life. No, they're not being taught directly. But it certainly can reinforce a lot of behavior. Media is a really good reinforcer of what you think and believe. That can be a very good thing. It can be a very bad thing. It depends on the belief and it depends on the media. But the point overall that Jen makes is that this is precisely why the quality of the media matters, because it does have a role in either influence or reinforcement. So if that aspect has fallen by the wayside for the most part, and the active participation in being a consumer of it, that has lessened in importance. Really, what is anybody doing here?
That's sort of my conclusion, is like this sort of thing. There's a reason why like literal film students don't want to watch movies. They find them boring. They're not as interesting as what's happening on their phone. They cannot compete with that. And so why, that's not going to change. I think that, we'll still have the Weezer goods out there who do like sitting and watching and paying attention to and talking to an Unc-slop Sherpa like me about the themes of No Country for Old Men, but those will be outliers. And I don't know. The rest of it will just be on staring at TikTok, staring at YouTube shorts, and that's it. How is anything going to compete with that? And I said that about video games too, where I talked to a friend of mine's kid a few months ago. I have a lot of video games. He hadn't heard of any of the video games that I had, basically.
Didn't know any of the names at all. Didn't know they existed.
No. Okay. And obviously, he doesn't know the old games, but even the new ones, like brand new PS5, Switch games, whatever, didn't know them because they are so boring compared to Roblox. Roblox is like this little world with your friends that you get to virtually go into and spend all your time and your Robux in. And that is way more interesting to a 10-year-old than Final Fantasy 16 and playing that by yourself. That sucks compared to what they have now. That is harnessed and attenuated to grab all of your attention all of the time and just blow out your brain with compelling, gratifying challenges and, dopamine hits.
I don't see this. I mean, I'm really stuck because everything I've been thinking is too reductive and grim. But at the same time, I don't see this going anywhere that isn't straight up bad. I don't see a way for anybody to pull out of this if they're enmeshed in the dopamine hit cycle. Some will. Obviously, they can and will, but not very many. And I think it's easier to just chase the what's next as opposed to say, you know what, I'm going to do everything I've done for 30 years of consuming all sorts of media. Today, I'm just going to do that completely differently. I don't see that happening very much. I don't see it happening. I don't see it happening globally, especially where, we're talking about consuming media. Look, not everybody does it the same way worldwide. They just don't. And that's a reason why you can go on a website like a Twitter, and sometimes accounts really stand out as being from a certain place. There are differences in processing media and consuming it and all of that culturally worldwide. Some better and some worse. But the places that already have or the people who are already struggling with pulling meaning out of media, or valuing the concept of pulling meaning out of media, I don't see a way. I don't see a way for those people to turn that around. And when we're talking billions of people who are expecting constant action in every aspect of their lives, which we are seeing this on the political side. Do you know what a total freak out and nightmare would occur if somebody who is like the president of the US, somebody in that role, just like hung out and chilled for a month? It's just like, you know what? Things are okay. There's nothing that I have to do right now. It's like, no, if somebody is taking an hour off from an important role, it's an absolute crisis to hundreds of millions. It's a hateful thing to have any kind of inaction. Everybody seems to demand responses to everything all the time. I saw this today where, there's this train collision, I think, in Spain that was disastrous. I think 2 passenger trains collided and many people were killed and injured. Terrible thing. But I saw all of these sympathy tweets from places and people that it makes absolutely no difference that they piped up. like it's a sort of thing where they absolutely should have thought, oh, that was awful. Like that's a terrible thing. But instead, they went to tell the world that they thought it was a terrible thing because they just couldn't bear not to. They couldn't bear not having an immediate reaction to some event in the world. It's an event in the world worthy of reaction. It's a serious one. The mayor of some town in Australia doesn't need to pipe in, and like they just don't, right? But that's clearly the expectation for them, is that the idea of inaction right now about this thing is unacceptable. I have to be active. Well, no, you actually don't. You can just not say anything for a little while. Or you can say something adjacent that's valuable and useful instead of some schlocky, boilerplate style condolences. But that's the expectation. It's constant stimulation, whether you're receiving it or you feel like you're obligated to give it. That's very dangerous. That just doesn't lead to a useful place at all.
Yeah, well, I'm interested to hear what our audience thinks about movies in general, about, and the video game stuff too, because like, I don't know what Roblox is, but Kep in the episode chat did back me up here that like Roblox is like an incredible thing that, I mean, I thought about this years ago when it came to, maybe it was when we had Quackity on, when I was thinking about Minecraft, where, Minecraft was this, I'd never played Minecraft. Not for one split second have I ever played that game. I've played thousands of games and not one of them has been Minecraft. But just understanding that in this game, you can play whatever the game is, as far as like, I don't know, harvesting ore and building things.
Yeah, that's all it is. It's a mining game, and you just have bags of what you mined, and that's the end of the game.
As I understand it, there are pigs involved and like green bad guys that look like cactuses.
The creepers.
But then as I'm seeing there are like all of these stories that like are ongoing of all these real life people on these servers, and it's like a soap opera. It's like, okay, it's a video game, but then it's also a community, but then it's also a soap opera. It's like, okay, again, like why would I play some video game by myself when I could be involved in something that's like so much more compelling? It has multiple layers of, interest behind it. And my friends are also involved in it, or they also know. I could talk to them at, the lunch table about what happened last night in the Quackity saga, whatever. You can't compete with that. So none of the things. So this is why, like, overall, the topic is very interesting to me because, it seems like the sun is setting on a lot of these media that were I feel that way about like long YouTube videos. Like, are long YouTube videos boomer now? This is a real question that I have for our listeners. Like, are people so in love with shorts, with short form, with TikTok and stuff that like sitting down to watch like a 25-minute YouTube video is that for like old Zoomers? I don't know, but it seems like that might be like the next domino to fall in like this evolution of, attention grabbing, which is all it is. It's like, how are people spending the capital of their attention and on what? And like books already, it's over. It's over for reading books.
Yeah.
Like, it's been over for reading books. Like, that's not a thing that hardly anybody does. So we could look right there at books as being a thing that probably 35 years ago, people were having this conversation we're having right now about movies, about books.
Yeah.
Because why would you read a book when you could just watch the movie?
Yes. Yeah. That was a joke for how long? Was it like, I'm not going to read the book, I'll just watch the movie? That was a punchline, and then it turned into reality. But one of the beautiful things, if not the most valuable thing to the audience about something that's long, like a YouTube video that's long, is that if it's sufficiently engaging, that viewer does not have to figure out what to do with their life every 60 or 90 seconds. Mm-hmm. They don't have the machine gun barrage of shorts where they're constantly deciding, is this good or do I swipe? Is this good or do I swipe? The peace that a long, engaging thing offers a viewer, the break away from that responsibility, I think is increasingly valuable. So I don't think that we say long form media being 20 minutes, which it's crazy that we're at that point. But I think that a lot of people will continue to value it precisely because it's just like a binge-worthy TV show. One of the best things about a show like a Mayor of Kingstown that I go back to rewatch, it had 4 seasons. I watched an episode or two and I'm like, yeah, this is good. I'm into this. It felt awesome to know that I didn't have to figure out what to watch for like 40 more episodes. I had literally 40 hours of TV where the job was done. I could actually just watch TV. That was nice. And it's, a reason why I was looking forward to The Pit coming back, because I liked the season 1 a lot. I knew that this is awesome. I'm going to have 10 or 12 or it's actually, I think it's like 15 or 16 episodes since it does that full day. I'm going to have this long string of things that are slotted in for me to watch. It's taking away times when otherwise I'd be like, I want to watch TV. Okay, what am I going to watch? So I didn't think actively about that. I realized it after the fact. But when there's a YouTuber you like, that's an increasingly valuable thing because you know that you can load up something and enjoy it and be entertained by it. Caleb Hammer has crushed it on precisely this. If you like one episode of Caleb Hammer, you know that you are going to enjoy every 90-minute video he puts out. Every time a new Caleb Hammer episode drops, you know that you're probably going to be into it. That's seriously, seriously valuable.
Yeah, if you can continue to stomach the exchanges that occur on that show, which I could not after about 4 episodes. Those first 4 episodes, I was like, this is the greatest show to come along in years. And after, the halfway into the 5th one, I'm like, I'll never watch another one of these again. I cannot handle it. Just the people and their decisions and their his freak out. Yeah.
The landscape is changing. It's changing extremely fast, faster than it has at any point in our era, which I'd call the YouTube era. It's month by month changing as opposed to, there's like a 3-year shift in the meta. No, now it truly is month by month. And it's changing for viewers watching, consuming all sorts of media. And if you make videos, if you make any kind of art, it's changing for you just as fast. And I think the stuff that you brought up, Kevin, about really why anybody's doing it and what it means to sit and watch a movie like No Country for Old Men for 2 hours and then think about what you just saw. It's worth considering how and whether what you do or what you consume is going to be important to you or others. It's crazy that that's a question that's explicit at this point because it was always baked in. But now you really should ask, why am I doing this if I'm watching a show? And why am I making this if I'm making a video?
Yeah, those are good questions. I feel like in general, everything that was once baked in is now an active question. I'm not exactly sure why, but that's sort of where we are. All of it is, we're starting from, it's like year zero.
Yeah, part of that, on the surface, that seems depressing, but I think it's a remarkable opportunity to really think about this stuff and revisit it, or visit it for the first time, which I think is the case for most people. We've thought about it a lot because we've had to. You and I have simply had to think about this stuff constantly for years because it's been baked into what we do. But for most people, they haven't actually had to wrestle with that question. It's a remarkable opportunity. And I think it will make, regardless of what conclusions you come to, if any, I think it will make the consumption of media a lot more enjoyable. You will feel like what you're doing has some kind of purpose. And if that's to say, I want to watch Marvel movies because they're empty calories and I just want to eat mind candy all day. I can't say brain candy or somebody we know will sue me. But that's a valid answer. And being clear on that would make it a lot less stressful to find out how you proceed. If you say, I don't want to be a slug loser who just consumes with 2 O's in the word, well, okay, that will inform what you do too, and you will be happier.
Is it funny that goon and consume both have the 2 O's? There's something about those 2 O's that I don't know what it is.
I bet that's the funniest sound in all languages. In all of language, your best chance at making something funny or sound fun is putting the ooh sound into it.
Poop. You got 2 O's. And
poop is funny. Even something like balloon.
Yeah.
I don't think sounds fun if it's called anything else without the ooh.
Mm-hmm. Like Balak or Balort or...
yeah.
Balooty. Well, that has ooh. I can't even come up with other things.
It has to be the funniest sound. If there's a funnier sound, I would love to know what it is. And I think the E sound, like a Y or an IE on a word can be fun and lighthearted and cute and whatever. But I think it has limits. I think it's overused. So the one that has like the peak value without being overused is ooh.
I will tell you, I took an audio class in college and we did an entire day on funny sounds. This is a great class. This is like one of the best classes I ever took. And we went through all of the different ways that words are funny and not funny. It was a great. I wish I could remember like any of it. It's a shame I forgot it. But yeah, it's literally a thing where specific combinations of consonants and vowels and blah, blah, blah sound funny and others just don't.
Building with Lego, imagine how fun it would be for kids if it was called Lego or Lugo.
Ooh.
They totally missed the opportunity. They could have been a successful company and they blew it. Instead, it's just, Lego.
Yeah, not successful at all. I did remember that I was successful on my, not like going out on a limb with, No Country for Old Men was that difficult of a recommendation. That's sort of a layup. But many, many episodes ago, I talked about Glengarry Glen Ross. And someone commented on the last episode that they remembered that, watched the movie, and absolutely loved it. So that I will put that feather in my cap. That's a more random and obscure Unc-slop recommendation is Glengarry Glen Ross. Not a lot of people are going out and telling you to watch that one. But it's great. I mean, the cast is insane.
Very good.
Alec Baldwin,
Jack Lemmon,
Al Pacino, Jack Lemmon, and Kevin Spacey. It's just like scene-chewing monsters. The whole thing is just great. And you should pay attention to it. Put down your phone and watch the whole thing.
Is there one recommendation that you can give that is funny, accessible, and worthwhile? Because Glengarry Glen Ross is serious business.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So a comedy?
Or something that's more on the lighthearted side?
Because I want to do a whole episode where it's just like Unc-slop recommendations. I think that would be fun to do.
I need to start thinking about it. Yeah.
I know. So, but let me say this. When I was in film school, I wanted to do comedy. I wrote a comedy script.
Yeah.
And my professor hated what I wrote. She was like, comedy is garbage. It is it's not respectable. Nobody likes comedy movies. If you're, as far as this profession is concerned, I'm not dealing with comedy. She was like really adamant about that. And I was like, whoa, like that's crazy. Like that's what I am interested in. I want to write comedy. And she just basically slammed that door right in my face. Yeah.
Expelled you from the school.
Straight out of it. It was like, this is embarrassing slop. No comedy. But I was like, but some of my favorite movies are funny. And I mentioned things like Fargo and The Big Lebowski.
Yeah.
And she was like, okay, those are not comedies. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And she's like, the way that the Coen brothers make you laugh is through like the organic conflict that arises between idiosyncratic characters. And Absolutely. That is not the same thing as writing Ace Ventura: Pet Detective. Like these are not the same.
That's not Jeff Daniels blowing out his colon in Dumb and Dumber. They're not the same.
No. And she's like, you can do that. She's like, but
okay.
The Coen brothers have real stakes. They have real conflict. They are like dramatic films and reputable films that just so happen to have funny moments. That's not a comedy. Yeah. So I don't know how I got on that rant, but that would be part of my Unc-slop episode, is explaining things like that. So let me just throw Fargo out there. Like The Big Lebowski is that movie was so great when it wasn't popular, I will say. Like that movie was not popular at all for a long time. Like it pretty much bombed, I think, at the box office. And then it slowly developed this cult following when it came out on DVD. And now it's kind of entered the cultural zeitgeist. And although I don't know if like Zoomers know anything about the dude or anything like that. So maybe they could watch it with fresh eyes. And Fargo had its own FX show, but I feel as though most people have no idea what that movie is about at all. And it would be like a 100% like virginal viewing. And so, and it is funny. So it answers your question. So I will say, go watch Fargo would be my answer. The movie, not the FX show. Is that?
I think that's fair.
Is that acceptable?
I feel like virtually everybody would enjoy on some level both of those films.
Yeah. But Fargo is my final answer. All right. So the last thing is that I want to reiterate that the Unc-slop Sherpa role is open for business. So if you want to leave comments, if you want to join the Discord and talk about this stuff, let's go, because it's needed. Like it's obviously needed, because if your peers are not interested in talking about this stuff with you, then you have to find somebody who is, and I will be. It's just not part of, I guess, even being a film student anymore. So, all right, that's it for us, guys. Have a great week. And until next time, we will see you, Space Cowboys.
Thanks for listening to The Create Unknown. We make this show with the support of our patrons. 100% of that goes directly to keeping episodes going every week. And the recent support has been amazing. Sid Polk, NRM, Venture Addicts, Weezer Good, you all really do make this show happen. Thank you to the Tots and the Dumpster crew, old and new, who save tiny little lives every month. And thank you to our grizzled, battle-hardened child infantry. Clemente de los Santos, Dan the Latch, Demetrius Andrews, Erica, Ferry-kun, Jen Mafasanti, Kevin Menard, Mikhail Steinke, Monahem, Natsu, Penny Piddler, Ryan Steer, Ryan Kinder, Samuel Manser, Sean S., Sean Malone, and Tom Bidiover. And a tremendous shout-out to our elite baby gang commanders: Atrocious Scuff, Kat, Dojangles, Graham Robertson, James Gallagher, Jeff Davis, Orange Vanilla Coke, Patrick Pister, TCU's personal pilot Andy, Ryan Carroll, Baseweight Vinthos, Yeetus Deletus, Jonas Walter, Nathan Robinson, and of course, Trev's dead. You are the elite. Thank you as well to our indentured servants, producer, editor Ben Webster, Minecraft mogul Laterman, Discord kitten wrangler Conrad, and producer emeritus Dan Yosua. Thanks to Baseweight for use of Created in the Unknown for the opening theme. Thanks to Electro Voice for giving us mics to sound good on top of it, and thanks to Main Gear for powering all our PC endeavors. The Create Unknown is an Unknown Media production in partnership with Studio 71.